the damage and cost to all around the economy. So I think this time because of COVID-19, we were sort of reawakened about the importance of the supply chain, how to secure the stable and resilient supply chain globally. So in Korea we have many global companies like Samsung, LG, but I don't think they were completely able to deal with this kind of unexpected shock. So through this kind of global pandemic, business and also Korean government now totally reawakened about the importance of the supply chain. And of course, the public policy issue also very important in dealing with this kind of problems. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. What about Mr. Choi?
Okay, first of all, thank you for having us. I think what is a meaningful event. Before I go to what is the question, let me give a kind of brief kind of trade. What is between the Korea and Australia? Actually, we are a trade volume between two countries is 28 billion, and from Australia to Korea is 20 billion, and from Korea to Australia 8 billion. So Korea is number 4 export destination to Korea, and also number 7 of import destination to Australia. As a trade and investment program agency, we are actually organizing many exhibition, trade delegation, investment delegation during the years before the COVID-19. But nowadays, actually, we cannot do anything. And before the COVID-19, actually, we promote Australia as a test market to not only Australia, also the Europe and North America, such as the USA and Canada. And also, the FTA between two countries came into effective in 2014. So the FTA is quite doing the key role to promote what is trade between two countries and investment. But anyway, because of COVID-19, all the things is changed. That's why we have to think about what is the importance of the supply chain and value chain.
Okay. Thank you very much for your input here. Ms. Ji-sun, would you like to add to, from your own perspective, to what Mr. Choi has mentioned already?
Yep. I will just, I think, first of all, thank you for having us today, and I will just add up just briefly what he mentioned. So the Korea is the first largest two-way trading partner for Australia, and due to the COVID-19, the global value chain has been changed to the regional value chain. So we have seen the Australian government is looking for the partners in the India Pacific and also the Southeast area, including the Korea. So I think that between the two countries, the trade and also the R&D activity and investment will be increased after the COVID. So yeah, as a non-profit, the Korean government agency, we facilitate the trade and investment between the two countries. So yeah, we are searching more opportunities in Australia for the Korean companies as well.
Okay, thank you so much to all panelists. Yes, you did actually touched on not simply how the businesses were run before or pre-COVID, but also touched on few things that how you would have handled it if you known these particular incident that which is COVID-19. However, I would like to go back to you guys on to understand more specifically from your firm or the institution perspective, that what if a couple of aspects that you believe that were hindered as part of the trade between these two countries, Australia and Korea, due to COVID-19. Just very specifically, just on two things that you believe were hindered because of COVID-19. Let me start again with Stuart. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Shyam. There are three things that really hit our customers here, through COVID-19, and that's the impact on raw material supply for manufacturing up the value chain. The supply chain was squeezed, so there was a lack of supply versus the demand that we needed, specifically in air freight, now sea freight. And what we found is countries with a high manufacturing base actually started to become more introverted and started to look after their domestic supply versus global or international supply. So the three things for me are impact on raw material supply, the squeeze on the supply chain demand, capacity, and then countries becoming introverted.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. What do you think on this, since you have been working on these between as part of the Quotra, you have been working the trade between Korea and Australia. So, Mr. Choi, what do you think are the two things that were hindered because of COVID-19?
Mr. Rahman, Ms. Kang will answer to that question.
Yeah. So trade perspective, I just checked the statistics between the two countries, compare the trade volume before the COVID-19, and the trade volume has been decreased like almost 20% during the COVID. And I found that the federal, the government, and the state government imposed the strong lockdown in Australia compared with other countries. So the Korea export the fuel and the auto parts to Australia. But it has been increased during the COVID due to the strong lockdown. As you know, the travel industry and also people just stay at home. So the auto parts, the demand from the jet fuel especially, and also the auto parts has been decreased. So yeah, this is the point that I would like to mention, that the COVID has been affected to between the two countries in terms of the trade volume.
Okay. Just I'm moving on to the question that obviously you did mention and specifically identified the areas that where it did not work. At the same time, some of the policies and the strategies that you had pre-COVID did not work over COVID, and is not will not work perhaps even post-COVID. Given that scenario, what have we learned? And in other words, would you operate differently to make business and supply chain more resilient in the event such as COVID-19 in the future? So let me start with Stuart Smith first, and then move on to the other members of the panel. Stuart, over to you, please.
Yeah, we've had resounding feedback from our customers. There are probably 4 key areas that they want to refocus, post-COVID, or what they've learned, and that's around agility. So the ability to flex their service offering, that they can turn on and off as needed. They definitely need increased visibility to know where the issues might be or the block or choke points in their supply chain so they can quickly remedy the issues, which referring back to the agility. Collaboration is a big one across suppliers, countries and teams. We found that, pre-COVID, as I said, my customers and in Australia had very lean supply chains and had really narrow relationships. And they were caught off guard if those relationships didn't have relationships with other suppliers in the industry. And then people. There was a massive gap from a people perspective. Obviously, COVID introduced stresses into the supply chain, impacted morale and productivity, but also the skill sets around resilience for those people in particular, and then into the supply chain discipline. So be agility, visibility, collaboration, and focus on people that brings that all together.
Okay, I'll come back to you, Stuart, a little bit later on the comments that you made on looking inward because of the COVID-19. You did also mention about the relationship and collaboration and the people aspect. I'll come back to you on that a little later, but let's find out what the quota feels about it. So may I invite Mr. Choi and Ji-Soon on this, please?
Yes, yeah. Actually, as I mentioned, we are conducting many kind of activities to promote trade and investment. But what is in there's no anymore is kind of effective impact. There is no any kind of effect in the during the COVID. So we changed the strategy. Before we just doing the face-to-face kind of activities, but during the COVID, we changed all the things, all the activities, such as the exhibition, trade delegation, or investment delegation, all the seminars. We changed into digitalization. So through the online, we conducting 100 meetings all of the world, and also we conducting the 100 seminar. It doesn't matter where they are. It doesn't matter what time is it. So there is before the COVID, pre-COVID, we have certain amount of the activities, but during the COVID, we did more the activities through the online. So that is what we are focus on the how we can promote the trade and investment.
Okay. If I may just continue with that questions, and from your response, Mr. Choi, is that when you say that we change the value chain, what do you mean by that? What exactly you would say? Are you saying that the value chain or the supply chain structure will change? But was that, if it is so, then was that a drastic change that you brought about the supply chain between Australia and Korea? How was that done then?
I think there is, can I say, there is not a big difference between the supply chain and value chain. But as I know, because of COVID-19, we can know how the value chain is important. Because in Korea, actually, as we know, we have a kind of what is a big volume of the manufacturing in the car. But because of COVID-19, we stopped all the factories because of the lack of value chain. So what is the cause of? So that's why what is between the countries, Australia and Korea. So we not only just send and export product, we should be stick on the value chain in certain what is the industry, such as the medical or IT or food industries. So I really emphasize on the two countries work on what is developing the value chain on certain industries.
Okay. Okay, thank you for clarifying that aspect. Stuart, you did mention various different term, and in this in response to my last question, which is you said that collaboration, the relationship, the people aspects, these are very important aspects to build the resilience. However, you also did say that yes, the globalization is the way that it was may not be remained like that, because the companies, the firms, and the countries are looking inwardly. And if that is the case, then how do we collaborate? How do we integrate? And how we still build the relationship?
Yeah, it's really an interesting dynamic with the, I suppose, the expansive globalization and particularly Australia's reliance upon that. Very similar in, my time in the US. I've been back in Australia for 4 years now, and that was part of President Trump's ticket was, make America great again, which he didn't really achieve, to be honest. But really interesting how we expanded, relied on globalization, then pandemic hit, and it forced companies to reevaluate where they were at from a business perspective and the reliances and vulnerabilities that they had on their global supply chains and then the value chain, all together per se. So this really forced customers, importers, exporters to look at that to help build resiliency into it and redundancies, and not just rely upon pure globalization, but have different tiers throughout that that they can rely upon. Collaboration, particularly across supplies and diversifying their supply base, has been key. Because again, particularly here in Australia, customers look to refine their supply chains, get them as lean as possible to essentially provide the lowest cost. Whilst that was great when we had open borders, it's not so great now that they've had to look internally to see whether there's any suppliers, say within Australia, that can help fill the void left by COVID and globalization. So it's forced them to really build that redundancy and resiliency into the supply chain. But the other challenge we have here as well is the technology perspective, which provides that overall and overarching visibility. It still astounds me when I go out and see customers and talk international and global supply chains, that a lot of them are still working off spreadsheets to run their supply chains. So there's a lack of sophistication. And I think technology is another key player that we could adopt here in Australia, where I've seen in other supply chains across Asia, the Americas, and also Europe.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Can I add something?
Yes.
Professor Lee, can I add something?
Professor Lee, as a matter of fact, I was coming to you that so far that we heard about the business executive's view. We'd like to hear from you from an academic or the researcher perspective. Yes, over to you, Professor Lee.
And so some of the panelists already talked about the trade issue between two countries. Actually, during the COVID-19 crisis, I think the service sector more damaged than manufacturing sector, because the one panelist already mentioned about the tourism sector, but actually, tourism all stopped between the two countries, and also some foreign students, studying abroad, the education is also stopped, and the student exchanges is stopped, right? So actually, I don't know how to apply the supply chain management in service concept, and I think still how to secure the stable human interaction between two countries. So, for example, it's relating to public policy and how to apply the visa, the rules for exclusively for two countries, right? And I know the two countries are exceptionally successful at handling the coronavirus compared to other countries. So, some vaccine visa issue or some of other, the measures may be considered to facilitate, the human interaction, just like before we used to have. And also, because I'm an economist, I always concerned about the future of globalization. So after COVID-19, so what happened to globalization? So I strongly believe that the trend for globalization will continue because, the most of the global companies are still pursuing the global competitiveness. So the globalization is, only one answer. It must be deeper level of globalization, even after the coronavirus. But at the same time, we should be very careful about the handling the supply chain issue. So actually, those globalization and securing more stable and resilient supply chain may be contradictory, but we should have a more deeper level of the management of both issues, secure global competitiveness and also stable supply chain management simultaneously. So in that respect, but in optimizing global the production, the global companies always thinking about what kinds of what level of globalization is optimal, and not the full return, but some kind of return to reshoring from outsourcing. So some of the companies may return to home countries, and also some of the insourcing may be more, popular than before because a key or strategic component must be secured. It must be free from some external shock. So I think in that respect, some of the adjustment will be made, but still in the big picture, the globalization will continue. But as globalization gets deeper, we also need to pay more attention to the more stable, resilient supply chain. Thank you.
Okay, but before you go, Professor Lee, would you just continue very quickly, if you could touch upon what specific capabilities that each nation or the supply chain should build in order to make it more resilient? Yes, we'll be in a different domain altogether, but what capabilities that we need to build? If you could highlight on that very quickly, please.
So the one way to make a more resilient supply chain is to diversify the production centers. So far, the China, India was very concentrated reason for outsourcing or offshoring. So I think in the future, the global companies need to think about how diversify their production center globally. So if some emergency situation occurred in one country, they may not impact their global supply chain, right? So in that respect, some of the trend to diversify productions globally, I mean across countries, across region. So that may be one way to deal with this kind of problems, and also other some the business pattern may be the reformed. So they try to secure more stable contractual relationship in the vertical supply chain. So for example, they try to integrate vertically with backward forward companies, and to secure more stable relationship even during this kind of a crisis, because it's a priority issue, right? Which customer serve first? So in that case, the long-term contractual relationship or investment relationship must be respected. So in that direction, they have to change
Yes.
a lot of things.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Professor Lee, you made a very interesting, a couple of interesting comments on that. But in the interest of the time, possibly we won't be able to go further into those aspects, because the stable relationship, of course, did not work during COVID, and multiple sourcing also possibly did not work the way that it was supposed to work. But we have to work on this, definitely. Mr. Choi, if you could have any quick prescription on the capabilities that the nations or the supply chain should build in order to make it more resilient during the COVID type of event in the future.
Oh, yeah, yes. I mean, as Mr. Dr. Lee mentioned, there is quite important things we have to do, and also we have to do kind of an open innovations, or whatever company is, wherever company is, how the company is small, how big is company is big. So I mean, the open innovation can be the kind of the solution to I mean, we can I can say solve the problem in such the supply chain, the management, and as a trade commissioners, I mean, if I mention specifically about the trade things between two countries, as we mentioned, from the Australia to Korea, the export port is mostly mineral resource, like iron ore, or what is the coal and natural gases. But nowadays there is a big change from the carbon-oriented economy to the carbon zero oriented economies. So nowadays, what is a hydrogen economy is quite important things. Then this hydrogen economy, the boost, it can be big possibilities, opportunity to promote the supply chain between two countries.
Okay. Thank you very much. And
Shams,
last point, Stuart, if I may come back to you very quickly, what's in your opinion, just on this, that how do you build the capability? Thank you.
Yeah, just on the back of the last point I was going to make, we do have a historical reliance on agricultural or the energy sectors. I think for the resilience and help building the capabilities, I definitely think e-com is a solid platform that we need to look at, and the cross-border e-commerce and the technology that supports that. Obviously, dedicated supply volume, securing that between the two countries would be another pillar. And I believe we have an opportunity here in Australia to learn from Korean companies. And there's one particular one that comes to top of mind, which is Coupang, which has been named the fastest growing e-tailer in the world. How can we learn and leverage from leading technologies and business practices in Korea, bring it here to help build and enhance robustness between the two countries? We have an opportunity here in Australia, potentially anywhere from 5 to 7, 8, 9 years behind where our Korean counterparts are and the rest of the world.
Okay. Thank you very much to the members of the panel, and that comes to the end of our formal question and answer session. Now we've got a few minutes for the questions from the floor. So one of the questions that came from the floor is, what would be the takeaway from here in terms of building resilience into the future? Let's start with Stuart on this.
Walking away from here, and I put a response here in the chat, would definitely be looking at multiple suppliers within your supply chain, whether it's manufacturing or people in the freight forwarding or supply chain industry. So look at your value chain or your vertically supply chain, look at where gaps might be and help building out multiple suppliers across that. And then the collaboration across the suppliers through the vertical supply chain will be key for me, connecting all of those dots.
Okay, thanks for that. One other question is can we expect the full recovery of the economy in the near future, or need to adapt to this new normal era? Is open to the panel. Anyone can respond to that, please.
So can I answer?
Yes, please.
Okay. I think the recovery will take different forms depending on how the countries respond. So in some countries, it will be exact V-type recovery. So in China or in other countries, they already experience such kind of recovery, the quick and sudden recovery to the normal. But some other countries, they show the very delay in recovery. So it can be, the U-curve recovery, and it takes much longer time until they see some noticeable change. So, but globally, I think in the next year, all vaccination can be achieved across the world. Then we expect, right, some of the countries, recover to the normal. But I think it will take some time to see, completely normal economy or something. And also, it will be totally different world after COVID-19.
Okay. Well, thank you. Anyone else would like to make further comments on this question? That whether we would be coming back to the normal, or it would going to be a new normal, and which would be totally different than what we have seen pre-COVID. And yes, of course, the countries would recover at a different pace. There's no doubt about it. But however, possibly we would be able to recover to a normal business domain.
But in the stock market, they already show we will make a full recovery, even more than the normal.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
in the Korean stock market, we have the same phenomena like U.S. stock market.
Yes.
I don't know how in Australia stock market.
Oh, I think Australia economy is growing faster than expected. That's what the Treasury is telling us. Actually, as a matter of fact, only day before yesterday, the Treasury has predicted that recovery rate is much more faster than the country or the economy has actually expected. So yeah, it's unemployment is coming down quite fast as well. So is government is putting a lot of resources into the infrastructure, into trade and things like that. So things are happening. Absolutely, you are right. What the next question is how is the international trade relation between Korea and Australia grow again in service related? Say, for example, in Professor Lee, you did mention about education. But how is it going to recover, and how soon you feel that this is going to recover? Because we are struggling at the university, we are struggling right now, so we'd like that to be recovered as sooner rather than later.
I don't know about the situation in Australia, but in Korea, actually we have so far increasing number of foreign students who want to study in Korea. So at our graduate school, we have more and more the foreign students enrolled so far. But I don't think the COVID-19 will change that kind of trend fundamentally. So we get the more globalized. I think in the education industry, it also get more globalized, and probably will have more foreign students in Korea and more Korean students in Australia. And we like to, have a higher level of cooperation in academia, even between faculties, not only between students.
Absolutely, and I guess this particular symposium is an example that how we could build the relationship, between your university, Professor Lee, and our university, which is RMIT here, and along with other universities in Korea and in Australia, of course. That's something that we would like to do more and more of. Obviously, that is one of the key issues right now for us. Yes. Thank you very much once again. I think we are now right on time, which is 5:32, 2 minutes extra that we have taken, but we started at least about 20 minutes. We are late, unfortunately, but we definitely would have much more opportunities to interact with you guys once again and discuss these sort of issues once again in details, because some of the issues that you raised is particularly important. If I may quickly just revisit that, the panel has provided an optimism with respect to globalization. That's for sure. Yes, many may say many things about globalization, but we do believe that came out very boldly from this discussion that globalization is going to happen, no matter what. It may have a little bit of hiccup here and there, but it is the way to go, and it is going to happen. Collaboration and people's participation and understanding in the business and the building relationship, and that building relationship is stable relationship into the future. Vertically integrated relationship into the future is a way forward for us. Technology, we did not have much of a time to discuss about the technology in this particular session, unfortunately, but definitely technology is going to play a vital role. And of course, technology is not going to come without any challenges. Like one of the panel members, I think Mr. Choi, has mentioned about the cyber issues, and therefore those sort of challenges we would face into the future. But perhaps, but again, we must say that technology is going to play a bigger role into the future in terms of making our supply chain more resilient and robust into the future. With that note, and just a last point to add, yes, the globalization is going to be there, and of course, but we'll see the future is a reformed future. It would be different future that we will see, and I think in a way that COVID-19 is actually a blessing for the humanity, perhaps, that we would be enhancing our innovative ideas and bring an innovation into our supply chain to make it more resilient into the future. Thank you, the panel members, once again. It is Mr. Stuart Smith, Professor Lee, and Mr. Kui-Chul Choi, and Ms. Kang Ji Soon. Thank you very much for your input into this particular session. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Over to Vin or Prem, please.
Thank you so much, Shams, for your excellent moderation as usual, and thanks so much on the panelists, Stuart and Professor Lee, and Mr. Choi and Ms. Kang, for your insight. What a great session we have for panel discussion. And also, I would like now to come back to introduce Professor Prem Cherry, head of the Department of Supply Chain Logistics Management within the School of Accounting, Information System and Supply Chain at RMIT University, to make a closing remark. Thank you. And Prem, when you're ready, the floor is yours. Prem, are you there? I think Prem is now having a little bit of connection issue, so please just give him a few moments to come back. Thank you. Hello, everyone. In the meantime, when we are waiting for Prem to log back onto the event, I'd like just to take this opportunity to thank everyone for your participation today. It has been a great session, and we had a bit of a technical glitch in the resource showcase session number 2. However, despite of that, I think it has been a very insightful session as well. So if you do have any questions for the presenters in session number 2, please post in the chat box, and we will collate those questions and relay that to the presenter. And then later on, we will be posting the answer onto the chat box of the event. So if you have already registered for the event, you'll be able to receive, you'll be able to see those messages later on as well. Thank you. I think Prem is now back online. So Prem, when you're ready, please.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I got a bit of a technical problem here. Thank you, Vin. My apologies. Vin has given me an exciting job to conclude this session today. I did really miss my yoga class, nonetheless. So my job is to thank a lot of number of people and also to conclude this session. So I'll start. I would like to thank everyone really to be able to attend the Australia-Korea South Supply Chain Resilience Research Capability Platform Inaugural Symposium today. I'm sure that you will all agree that we had a productive, meaningful, and constructive discussion on building supply chain resilience to COVID-19 via the means of keynote presentations, research showcases, and panel debate. Professor Nava started and highlighted the importance of sustainable development goals in guiding strategies for the enhancement of supply chain resilience via responsible governance, institutional restructuring, and social equity agenda. Professor Kim, of course, sees collaborative research as one of the key mechanisms to enhance supply chain resilience to sustain business continuity globally. Professor Quadras' thought-provoking talk highlighted the scope of supply chain resilience, shifting from return to previous state of a traditional way of looking at resilience to much more stronger shift state of being. Shift is also needed, he argued, from reactive to proactive systems to build resilient supply chain via reconfiguration, viability, and design of supply chain. Now, the new ideas to help develop this and tackle the challenges associated with black swan type events such as COVID-19. Dr. Kim built a robust model in his presentation to enhance port security, resilience, and performance from a very interesting different stakeholder perspectives. The research showcase led by Professor Bui also had a number of interesting presentations, firstly from Dr. Chowdhury, then by Dr. Kwok and Professor Larissa. All of them indicated the state of art knowledge via literature review, interpretive structure analysis, and resilience from defense and mining perspective. Thank you very much for doing this for us today. The panel session led by Professor Shams Rahman, as always, really drilled down to some of the burning issues that explored various supply chain resilience strategies after COVID-19. And that was hardly focused on an Australia-Korea bilateral trade perspective. All presenters highlighted the negative impact of COVID-19, no doubt, on trade volume as well as on direction. It was great to hear these challenges from an industry perspective from Australian Post and of course from POTRA. Services sector was the hardest hit globally. That was the key conclusion. Agility, visibility, collaboration, and people were identified as a key strategy to mitigate risk of supply chain disruption caused by COVID-19. Globalization, global geographic diversification of production network, open innovation, dedicated supply, and secured and resilient supply chain are seen as a way forward in the post-COVID era. Finally, I would like to thank DFAT for funding this project. A special thanks Professor Kim Sang-yeol and his team from Busan National Universities to collaborate with RMIT on this project. I'm also grateful to Professor Nawa Subramaniam, the session chairs Professor Bui Kam, Dr. Humin Jang, Professor Shams Rahman, and presenters for their invaluable contribution. Finally, I congratulate Professor Win Thai and Professor Kim and their teams for the success of this symposium, and I wish them best of luck for the forthcoming conference in South Korea. Thank you very much and have a good evening. Back to you, Win Thai.
Thank you so much, Prem, as always, for your continual support. It was such a great and succinct summary of the symposium, and actually you have thanked everyone already involved in the symposium, and I would like to actually make the last thanks, which is to you for your support and also moderating the keynote session as well as the conclusion as well. Really brilliant. So thanks so much, Prem, for that. So, ladies and gentlemen, Professor Kim, it has been a great session. It's been a long day. I'm sure everyone is tired. However, I hope that we have all take home lots of takeaways from the session. And as I mentioned previously, this is one of the activities in our project, and we certainly would like to continue collaboration with all of you, and we'll be in touch. And like I mentioned earlier, we'll be organizing the Australia-Korea Supply Chain Resilient Research Capability Supply Chain Resilient Research Conference in Busan toward the end of the year, and we'll be in touch again, and we would like to invite your involvement in that activity as well. In the meantime, thanks so much again for your participation today, and please take care of yourself and have a good day. And bye-bye for now. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye for now.
Thank you.